if you guys can just bear with me, I have to pull up the live feed on Substack on my iPad just so I can see who's here. It'll just take a moment. Well, maybe more than a moment because it's not coming up anyway. Let me just make sure the lives are working. And anyway, and for the recorded part of the lives, hi everyone. Today is our wellness live that we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks. In just a moment, as folks start to populate in, I'll introduce our guest today. Here we go. Okay, let me just pull up the live and see if anybody's here yet. And so, all right, guys, how are you guys today? So right now we are streaming from Xenocracy on Substack. We have Instagram here and YouTube. I can't tell if there's anyone here from Instagram. YouTube, we don't have any visitors. And it looks like we have some folks, and I do apologize, guys. There is some kind of weirdness that I've been getting over the last couple of weeks with Substack. And I know some of you are here. I can see you're here, but I can't see any of you yet. Like your names aren't populating in the feed, in the live feed, and they will. So I will definitely acknowledge you guys, but thank you so much for being here. So this is a unusual Sunday edition. Usually I don't have an opportunity to go live on Sundays. And if you notice, I have two amazing guests with me today. And we've been talking about this live for a while. And I'm going to reintroduce everybody in a couple of minutes because, people will sort of populate in from, on the different platforms. So I might have to reintroduce you guys a couple times as the community starts to populate in. I don't know if the camera's got this mixed up or not, but directly to my right, we have Patricia. Those of you on Substack know her as Patty Ann. Patricia is a therapist, a marriage
and family.
Family therapist. And Ritu, who is a little further over, is, as you all know, is my wife. And Ritu is a social worker at a large metropolitan hospital up here in northern New Jersey. She's been there for decades, and she is also a wellness expert and an online wellness influencer. So some of you might follow Ritu, and you may see her bouncing around as well. And what we wanted to do today is, and we've been talking about it for a while, is we really want to kind of touch on the issue of mental health. And there's a lot of ways to approach mental health or dealing with mental health issues as it pertains to politics, as it pertains to this world that I live in and that we spend a lot of time in over here. There's the mental health of the president himself. There's the overall mental health crisis in the country. These are all issues that maybe we'll get into in a subsequent live. But I thought that when Ritu and Patricia and I were talking about it, we thought that it would be a good idea to start with your mental health. Like, how do you cope with the chaos and the trauma and the uncertainty and the fear, which is something that we cover a lot, when we're talking about politics, and that's kind of what we want to get into today. And hopefully I'll do the least amount of talking for a change. So just kind of starting out with Ritu and Patricia, Patricia, what are you seeing in your practice? Love, what are you seeing in your patients and online? Like, what is it that people, as it pertains to politics and as it pertains to this political moment, what are people dealing with? What are the fears and trouble? What are the mental health issues that everybody is trying to cope with at this moment?
Yeah, a lot of what I see is the uncertainty of what's next, or depending on their legal status, or even just if they're a person of color, what's going to happen, or when, what if they get picked up for no reason, right? And then also just kind of what is changing constantly, and there's no consistency, and there's just always the chaos. So there's always that feeling of anxiety or the fear that what's next, and how do we deal with it? Because it's not a solution that is consistent either.
And that so that uncertainty is, you're saying is what creates a, is what creates the anxiety that
Mm-hmm.
people are experiencing consistently, right? It doesn't go away. And does that also pertain? I mean, we're thinking about the mental health, obviously, of people directly affected, right? The migrants who
Mhm.
might be at risk. But what about the rest of everybody who's watching it happen? Like, what's happening to us, emotionally, as we're
Mm-hmm.
helpless or feel helpless
Mhm.
to try to help?
So what I'm noticing, and thank you. Before I begin, I just want to say thank you for bringing this to everyone's attention, because I think the more resourced we are, the better we could respond accordingly. So I think what you're doing to bring this to the forefront is so imperative for our emotional and our mental health. But in terms of what's happening, Patty Ann, you're 100% correct. It's like the fear and the anxiety, but it's not limited. And I think what's happening politically, before it was limited towards views of Democrats and views of Republicans, but this is transcending multiple areas and multiple, like, people's lives in a dramatic way. Um, and it doesn't matter, as you can see with what's happened, uh, with ICE. It doesn't matter if you're an immigrant. It doesn't matter if you're undocumented. It's actually permeating multiple people's lives, irrespective of their race, their culture, their background. So I think for people, they're feeling scared, helpless, powerless, and uh, and also it's triggering, like, possibly like past traumas. And so I'm finding it's not just within our client set, Patty Ann, right? It's across the board. It's whoever you speak to. It's like in the forefront. So everyone is in a state of, I think people feel almost in a state of chaos, disarray. And I think the importance of what we're doing today is, all right, how do we bring you or give you the tools that you already know to become more resourceful, more empowered, more centered in your being, versus allowing the stress and the chaos of this political situation embody who you are. So I think that's what we're introducing today.
Well, so let's just dive right in then. Then what are they? What are those? What do you do? Like, what are these initial tools? And then once you guys, maybe also, in addition to, like, giving us an idea what the tools are that we can use, like, um, maybe some ideas of how to apply them to the fear, the anxiety, to all the things that we're all feeling right now.
Yeah. Patty Ann, would you like to, or and then I could jump in, or vice versa?
Why don't you start?
Okay, so I think one of the biggest tools is that you can use is our breath. And let me explain why. First of all, our breath is so portable. We take it everywhere, right? And it's so imperative to our overall well-being, but we kind of take it for granted. So breath work is so easy. And I find when I'm going from patient to patient at the hospital, I tell Mitch constantly, it's like a whirlwind. You're going, and Patty Ann, you could attest to this because you're going from client to client, right? There isn't room to breathe half the time. So, but our breath brings us back to our center. But when we're in a state of stress and our nervous system is in overdrive, what's happening is our heart rate accelerates, our blood pressure accelerates. our breathing becomes very shallow and it becomes like chest breathing. So we're experiencing it here. Then our tummy might be in knots and we're feeling uncomfortable, but we're always on autopilot and we're not even recognizing these symptoms. So, what do we do to get back to homeostasis? And the most simplest thing that we can do is our breathing.
What is homeostasis, though? I just want to clear because
So
some people may
coming
not.
back when your heart rate is normal, your blood pressure is normal, your breathing is not shallow, it's a little bit more deeper. Your heart is not like going like in your chest, like, or there's not a lump in your throat. So you're just feeling not stressed. You're feeling more relaxed. And by doing the breath work, you're getting in the present. So your mind is not racing to the future and your mind is not replaying the past. You're just in that moment, in that present moment. And that makes you more resourceful. So what's happening politically right now, getting back to politics, with the chaos, it's taking our nervous system and it's making it go into overdrive. So that chaos is exactly what they want us to feel and what they want us
Mhm.
to think and what they want us to experience. Because if we're in a chaotic mindset or a stressful mindset, it actually helps to encourage that agenda. And that fear actually helps us to become, it makes us more reactive than responsive to life. But the self care that we kind of minimize, we put on the back burner, that will make us more resourceful. So the simple breath work is so easy. And if we can do it like once, twice a day, even before we are in a stressful state, it becomes that habit allows us to all of a sudden implement it when we're feeling stressed. So we
Right.
can practice it today, but Patricia, I would love to get your thoughts.
So something I do work on with my patients is talking about what are the cues or the triggers that come up when they start feeling that anxiety. And sometimes they'll talk about the spiraling thoughts and the what next and what ifs and the what next. And okay, let's slow that down. Let's center ourselves. Let's ground ourselves. Let's breathe, or let's use some other, like you use the resources or the tools. Um, and another thing is they'll talk about the dissociation that they experience, where
Mm,
they will just be in a brain fog, or they can't think straight, or they'll just start scrolling because to them that's nurturing, or it's lessening that anxiety, but it's also a form of disassociation. So you're not staying present, or you're not going to be able to use the brain power you need to move forward without that anxiety. So it's
mhm.
reinforcing. So this is also helpful to teach those tools, help not to get into the cycle of reinforcement.
So, I mean, that's really helpful. It sounds like there's hope, right? To like
Mm-hmm.
not literally. I mean, I don't know if I should use this terminology with two mental health professionals, but to not lose your mind, right? But I want to get really specific. I want to dive really into we're still in, I think, a little bit in the macro, and it gives people a good perspective of the overall what we want to do. But let me give you an example, okay? Two examples, and if you guys could maybe both share specifically what do you do with breath work in this moment? I don't want to put anybody on the spot who's watching, the live, so I'll use myself as an example. All right, these are two different extremes. So on the one hand, 2 days ago, the or yesterday, the Supreme Court says tariffs are illegal, right? And not unexpected, the village idiot Donald Trump comes on a few hours later, and he's really mad, right? Because he's been told no. And that's a trigger for me. Just seeing, first of all, I try to be as honest as I can. Seeing him mad makes me happy, right? Because I think there's a certain entertainment value for that for my work here, just exacerbating his anger. but also he's just such a prick. I feel better when he's mad, right? Like when he's happy. So that's, I realize childish and immature, but then I knew he was going to come on and say to all of us, um, not only, I mean, he didn't say this, but he basically said it. Not only am I going to ignore the Supreme Court, I'm going to punish you all and make it an extra 10% tariff, right? I mean, he literally said that. And I got really mad because now I'm thinking, now he's punishing all of us for the fact that the Supreme Court didn't give him his way. And then hours later, it became a 15% tariff, right? Now, I don't know if that's going to really happen. I don't know if it's my logical mind, the political mind tells me that's probably not going to really be a thing, but I'm really mad. So and I don't know how to deal with that. I don't know what breath work I can do to like make me less mad. And I want to be mad too. I want to be there. I want to be mad at him. So that's problem A on a less, that's not traumatic. Problem B on a traumatic thing, and we talked about this, guys, when we were sort of prepping for this live. Problem B is I see videos of Renee Good getting shot, right? I see it. I can't unsee that, right? I watched another human being die, right? I see, and then I get that's a right hook to the to the all of us, right? That's just boom. And then several weeks later, we get a knockout punch where we see Alex Pretty shot on the ground in cold blood 10 times. And I am broken by that. I am broken by that. I can't take that, right? And then I'll give you one third example. I promised two, but I'll give you three because you can really give us some practical tools. What do you do with this? This little boy, Luis, I think his last name is Gonzalez or something, this little 5-year-old boy that ICE uses as a pawn to get as bait. We see this, right? We see that ICE uses this kid as bait to get his father to come out. They arrest the kid and the father. They put the kid and the father in detention. I'm enraged, but I'm broken. I'm helpless and I feel like I'm going to cry. And I have. It's happened on our lives. I mean, there are times when it's the kids and it breaks me. And then that little baby is sick he's out now, thank God, but he's in prison and he's sick, right? You take these three things, right? And I buy into this breathing is going to help. But how? Like, what do you do? What do you do with the anger, with the PTSD from the murders, and with the profound sadness from watching a baby being tortured by our own government? What do I do with my breath?
Before we get into the breath work, I just want to break down everything you're saying. Would that be okay?
Yeah, sure.
So I think first is to acknowledge the pain or the hurt or the fear that you're going through and what we're experiencing. Because if we don't give it a name and we don't acknowledge it, we can't move through it. So I hear you and I see what you're saying. So I think the first is acknowledging those emotions. And the next is the anger, the madness. This is what this administration wants us to feel, because the more angry, the more mad, the more divisiveness, allows them to continue with their narratives, continue with these liberals, or continue with, they only care about the undocumented, they don't care about us. I mean, it keeps us divided and it divides our humanity. But when we think about the anger and we think about the mad, how mad and angry we are, what it does is it keeps us feeling stressed. And I've always said this to Mitch is that anger doesn't help us. It actually hurts us. It doesn't allow us to be resourceful. It actually keeps us stuck. It harms us. So when we're angry and we're mad, we think that's in that respect, we're taking some of that control back, right? Because we got to be angry. We got to be so upset. But yet it does the opposite. That madness, that anger, like Trump doesn't care about it. Like he's not experiencing, Mitch, your anger, right? He's not feeling it. And to be honest with you, he probably doesn't care.
Yes.
but what it's doing for you. And I think that conscious knowing and telling me if I'm getting angry or upset, and yes, we're allowed to have our human emotions. I'm not saying discount them, but notice how you're feeling internally. That anger is going to cause dis-ease within our body, mentally, physically, emotionally, and that dis-ease in our body leads to hypertension, cardiac disease, cancer. It causes disease. So not to scare anyone any further, I don't mean it
Yeah,
that
that's very,
way.
yes.
I don't mean it that way, but I'm saying the we can empower ourselves by taking care of ourselves. And by taking care of ourselves through the breath work, just one way. And if it speaks to you, we move forward. If it doesn't speak to you, Patricia and I have other methods.
So
But this allows us, go ahead.
yeah, let me just interrupt you for a second. So the first step, because I want to break it down so people can, because a lot of people haven't done, like Ritu, Patty Ann, people that are mental health professionals, they do the work. They do it for themselves and they do it for other people, and they do it every day, right? But those of us that aren't in the field, and some of us may have never had therapy, or we never care about wellness, we haven't done that work, right? So, people might be saying right now, all right, Ritu, it's a great point, and you have a soothing voice, and I feel better. I mean, Ritu is my therapist, right? At 3 o'clock in the morning when I'm losing my shit, she's there, right? And she talks me off the ledge. But like people are probably maybe saying, well, I'm still mad, right? But I think I think what you're saying, to encapsulate it in a nutshell, is just the very first step is consider the fact that maybe mad is a choice. And maybe there's a choice that will help you feel better and be better. Is that kind of the first step, what you're saying?
I think the first step is acknowledge your feelings, acknowledge the emotion, because I think that's imperative. I don't want people to push down their feelings. And then the second step is notice how that emotional state, and not to get into jargon, but notice if you're feeling mad, how is it impacting me? And that's where that choice is, that it's a choice. And I love the word that you said, it's a choice. But how
Yeah.
is that impacting me emotionally and physically and mentally? So the
Okay.
first step is validation.
So getting back to my example now, we'll take the most extreme one. I see Renee Good get shot. I see Alex Preddy get shot. I feel like I'm going to throw up, and I feel enraged, and I take your advice, and I say, okay, I'm going to just at least look at how these feelings that I'm having are affecting me. Okay, and I say, this sucks. I feel like shaky, and I get it. I get Ritu's point that it's my cortisol's up, my blood pressure is up. I already have high blood pressure. Now I'm going to take more fucking pills. Like, so now, Patty Ann, what do I do next? Right? I say maybe I have a choice here, but I still don't know. I can't talk myself off the ledge. What do I do now?
I'd say go for a walk if you
Ah,
could,
that's
because
good.
yeah, that's energy that's building up in your body. You've got
Mhm.
to get rid of it. How are you going to think straight if you've got this pent up anger and energy and negativity? It's what's going on in your body? Are your fists tightening up? Are you feeling tense? Do you feel your heart just beating? Are you getting a headache? Like, what's going on? You need to put that energy somewhere. And, you know, maybe you're thinking, like, well, right now I need to do something right now.
Mhm.
Well, right now you need to take care of yourself, because you can't help other people or think about the next steps until you take care of yourself.
Mhm.
So I can't.
Beautifully said.
Yeah. So I can't. I just want to kind of follow that line of thought, Patricia, because I think a lot of us in the political space, right? We want to take political action, right? That's
Mhm.
because we feel we have an obligation. We talk about this on the live all the
Mhm.
time. We feel like we want to be patriots, right? And we want to protect, so, the most extreme of us, want to go out there and, physically defend people against the ice agents, right? And we know that's not an option, right? And it's a terrible idea anyway. But the rest of us, we want to call our congressmen and yell and scream. But you're saying that that's not, in this scenario, that's not your second step. Your second step is to, like the plane, they tell you in the plane, put your mask on yourself before you put it on the kid, right? You got to do that first. You can't protect, we can't save Renee Good, but you can't stop anybody else from getting killed if you're hyperventilating. Do I have that correct?
Yeah.
All right. So then what? Take a walk,
Well,
right?
I'm kind of in the way you're framing that. I also sense that there's a feeling of helplessness.
Yes.
Yeah. So once again, like Ritu said, put a feeling or name that feeling, name what's going on for you, acknowledge it, because otherwise it's just going to sit there. But if you can put a name to it and get to that next step, it might seem like something really simple. That's easy to do, sure, but it actually really helps.
Well, can you extrapolate it? Like, what does that mean to put a name on it? Like, what does that mean specifically in this instance, for example?
Sometimes I will have people like take that anger and we'll name it something. Well, then it's outrage. Great. Tell me more about the outrage. Put just in a way you can frame it so that in a way it's also externalizing it. You're not necessarily keeping it in. You're putting it somewhere so that when that comes up again, you can go to that outrage. You can say outrage. The outrage is back. And what are the tools I've been learning, and can I use it to either, I don't know about weaken it, but help not give it the power that it's taking from you.
So, and again, I know I'm simplifying a very complex situation with kind of making it into like an instruction manual for how Mitch deals with dealing with the trauma of seeing people get shot. But I think it's instructive. So I go for the walk, right? I've recognized that I have a choice. I don't have to feel this way, and maybe this isn't good. I go for a walk to release the anger. Maybe I go hit my punching bag. Maybe I do push-ups, whatever, right? But I get it out. And I'm thinking now, and my head is spinning, and I give it this name. And I say, I feel outraged and I feel terrified. Those are my feelings. I imagine that that's what my feelings are. Okay, and I feel maybe a little better. But now, is this the point, and maybe I'll ask this one to Ritu, is this the point where I start breathing, right? Because you guys do talk about breathing. Are we there yet? Do I start my breathing now, or is there something else I got to do before we get to that?
I think the breath work could be anywhere, but I love Patricia, how you said go for a walk, because that physical activity will actually bring everything down. Again, will decrease your heart rate, your blood pressure. It's an outlet to release all those pent up emotions. So I'm so happy that you said that. But you could start the breath work. The more you make it habitual, the more you do it when you're not feeling stressed, like first thing in the morning or last thing before you go to bed, it becomes a habit. And that habit, when you're under stress, you automatically go to the breath work. So it's beautiful for you to do it as you're going for a walk, connecting with nature. You start feeling very grounded. Um, you start appreciating, it gets you back in the present moment. So the breath work could go coincided with that walk, or it could be also in the moment when you're feeling scared, terrified, disempowered. It allows you to go from a state of out of control to a state of empowerment, to a state of coming back to yourself. And that's the beauty of the self care. And it could be the breath work, it could be the walk. It's really whatever speaks to you to getting back in the present moment.
So So what is it then? Like, what do they? Can you guys give us like the breath work? Like, what do you
Yeah,
do?
keep it simple. Okay, so there's a breath work that we can do, and before we do it, and I think as a community, it would be lovely if we did it together. So the key is again getting back to homeostasis and bringing your nervous system from a state of anxiety, a state of stress, right, where everything's heightened, to bringing everything down. Okay. And the way you do it, the one easy way that I teach it is when you exhale, the exhale is a little bit longer than the inhale. And what it does is it brings you your parasympathetic nervous system, which is that rest and relaxation that you experience, actually gets, I don't want to say triggered, but it actually helps to bring it to fruition. So what we'll do is we're going to take a breath in through our nose just for a count of 3. We're going to hold for a count of 4. So you're just going to hold your breath and then you're going to exhale for a count of 5. So a slow exhale through your mouth, nice and slow. Think of it like, I'm sorry, my son is in front of me playing. So if you're hearing noises or seeing the table shake, that's what's going on in front of me.
It's Roblox or Minecraft is part of this. That's the you could do that too if you're stressing. By the way,
Yes,
play
actually, he's working
play.
on his
You know.
Legos.
Oh, okay, so that's good. So
Yeah,
pseudo violent video games are probably not the best solution when you're trying to calm yourself down anyway. So there we go.
exactly.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a deep breath in through our nose. We're going to hold. And what you want to do, you want to do diaphragmatic breathing. So not in your chest, your hand could be on your abdomen. So you want to make sure your abdomen rises. And no, does it need to be perfect? It doesn't. This is just a tool. It's not about perfection. So we're going to take a deep breath in through our nose. We're going to hold for a count of 4. And then we're going to release, almost like blowing out candles. Like think of your birthday candles. You're just blowing them out. You can blow them out nice and slow. And then repeat. And you can do like say 3, 4, 5, 6. 3, inhale to keep it simple. 4, hold. 5, exhale slow. And we could do that 6 times. Do you guys want to try it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I can make 6 times. I don't know if I have the
Why
patience,
don't
but
we do,
I'll try.
why don't we just do it 3 times? How does
I'm
that
too
sound?
I'm too high strung for 6 times. It's gonna your whole like get your shit together, Mitch, and calm down is gonna stress me the fuck out 6 times. Let me do 3. I can't take 6 times. I'm
3
So
too,
Mitch,
times.
how about this? Scale yourself right now, 1 to 10. What's your energy
Ah,
level feel right now? And then let's check again after our 3 breaths.
oh, okay. So I'm gonna say, because I'm not legitimately worked up. I'm just getting myself worked up for the sake of the live. So when I think about the Preddy murder, I'm at a solid 8 of like not anxious, just mad. Right. I think a lot of the anxiousness is gone now. When I think about it enough, I'm mad. And when we talk about the young boy in sadness, and I think about him sitting, I can almost cry saying it. When I think about that kid sitting there in detention, that's like a 9 of sadness. Like if I keep talking about it, I'll feel it. So that's where my energy levels are right now.
so Patricia, do you want to lead or would you prefer me? Whatever you want.
Um, okay, I'll try. So, like Ritu said, relax your body. Another way to check about if you're breathing from your diaphragm is push it out as you're breathing, so it's rounded in your gut. That's showing that you're breathing from your diaphragm. So we're going to take a breath in of 3. 1, 2, 3. And then slowly hold it. 1, 2, 3. And then breathe it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do it again. Breath in. 1, 2, 3. Hold it. 1, 2, 3. Let it out slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One last time. Breathe in slowly. 1, 2, 3. Hold it. 1, 2, 3. Breathe out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And how do you feel now?
So yeah, I mean, like when I think about the little boy, I think I'm a good 5. When I think about the murder of Alex Preddy, I'd say I'm a good 4 because I actually feel like I could do something right now. I feel like I could call Congressman Gottenheimer and not be shaking and sound like a lunatic on the phone with them. But my question for both you guys about this, because I really want people to have actionable stuff they can take with them, and I think, and they do. You guys are incredible. I so appreciate this. I do this all the time, right? Ritu is a wellness person, and I've become one, and I'm always meditating, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's like it works. I know it works, right? So I knew I would be okay after doing that. But if you don't do this, right, and are you going to do this breathing exercise, for the first time? Because none of us are probably all that stressed out right now, especially just listening to the
Mm-hmm.
two of you. That just being in your presence and your energy for the two of you, I think just brings us all down. You're healers, and you just, as I think nobody's like losing their shit right now because we're in a good space. But is that effort, that breathing? You did the walk. You recognize that you had a choice, and you did the walk or some sort of physical activity, and somewhere in the midst of that, you did this simple breathing exercise, right?
Mm-hmm.
2 questions: is that going to take everybody off the ledge down to a 5 and say a 3 all the time? And if it doesn't, like like what do you do? And I know that's a ridiculous open-ended question, but I think people might be thinking that as well.
I think, and thank you, it's a great question. I think first and foremost, the more you can integrate this practice before you're stressed, before you feel anxious, you're going to find that you're more resourceful. So let me
Well,
share a little
love,
bit.
can I just interrupt for a second?
Yeah.
Because there's a question I want to get to. I was actually trying to set it up, but I'm just going to ask it to you because I know what the answer is. They say as an interview, never ask a question that you don't know the answer to. That's for a lawyer, not an interviewer, and for a politician. But like, before you get to that, and I really want to hear that, but physiologically, is there a switch that flips? That no matter who you are, no matter how stressed you are, is there something that happens in terms of your physiology when you start breathing and you release
Yeah.
that even if you're still feeling like you're crazy, that you could have confidence that there's something going on inside that you may not have even noticed. That is evidence that, like science knows that. Is that a thing?
Well, we just did it with Patty Ann's breath work. Patty Ann asked you, how do you feel
No, but
before you
I
were
want
at
you to.
it?
I'm asking you what the thing is. Like what happens with your adrenal glands? What happens with your
Yeah,
hypothalamus?
your
Like when you,
cortisol.
yeah. Does that what? That's what I'm asking
So,
you.
no,
Okay.
absolutely. But we saw it live in person
Right. Okay.
because your stress level was at a 9, right? And it went down to a 5. But if we tap in internally, the heart rate, when you're at a stress level of a 9, your heart rate, your blood pressure, your cortisol levels, all are extremely high, right? You could feel it, like your stomach is in knots. But you could feel like someone's face gets all red, right? And then when you do the breath work, or you go for your walk, or Patricia and I will introduce further coping skills that can help, and you can choose which one works for you. But you're going to notice afterwards, you said you're at a 5, so your blood pressure, your heart rate, the cortisol levels that are like coursing through your body, they all get decreased. So that is a physiological response.
Right, the body shuts that down, right? Even if you
It
what is it?
decreases, right?
But what's it called? The sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous systems.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
So the
bad one. What's the
sympathetic,
bad one?
The
the
sympathetic.
sympathetic
Yeah.
is the one where you're in stress and you're in fight and flight. So that's the sympathetic nervous system. And the key is during our evolutionary time years ago, that fight and that flight only happened when we were being chased or when we were had a predator or a wild animal coming at us, right? Now our sympathetic nervous system or that fight and flight response, the blood pressure, the heart rate, feeling that jitteriness inside, all that is happening when we're switching on the TV and we're putting on the news, right? Or if our child is, where a lot of us are in that um, sandwich generation where we have our parents and we have our children and that level of stress. So we're constantly in fight and flight. It's not, and it doesn't turn off like back in our evolutionary time, it turned off. The predator was no longer there. We went back to homeostasis. Now we're in a constant state of fight and flight with that stress response. And you guys all know what that is. I don't need to go into details of it. But the key is if we make this practice into a habitual practice, and it only takes 5 minutes a day, not even. When Mitch is stressed, I always remind him, go back to your meditation. And we could go into meditation. And obviously not during this live, maybe on a subsequent one, but how this will allow you to, by doing these coping skills, they're going to allow you to feel more empowered, to feel more resourceful, to respond to life versus to react to life.
Patricia, can you tell us about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1?
Sure. So the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is using, you have your five senses and you're using that to ground yourself in a way. So when you think of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and Ritu, you have to help me do these in order. I always forget.
Sure.
The five, name five things that you see. So in front of me,
Mhm.
I actually see World Trade Center. I see the Hudson River. I see the lamp. I see a box of binder clips. And I see a pen holder.
Mhm.
Okay, so that is helping me kind of ground a sense back to what's around me.
Yeah.
The four is four things you hear,
Mhm. Or you
right?
could do touch, might be
Uh-huh.
easier.
Okay, so four things to touch. I don't know. My drink is cold.
Mhm.
My phone is it's here. It's hard.
Mhm.
The paper in front of me is very papery feeling. My son's toys here are very plasticky.
Mhm.
So just what is some things around me that I can touch, that I can label, that I can feel? Me too. Oh,
So three is the three things that I can hear. So I'm hearing my son in the background. Um, and you can just close your eyes and really tap into it. It gets you into your senses. A little bit of the traffic. And as my husband knows, I love my heater. So I hear my
Oh God,
heater.
that heater. We'll talk about
I
that.
love
I
that
need
heater.
Patricia, I'm gonna have to come to you for individual counseling because Ritu is always cold, and it could be 83 degrees outside, and there's if you hear a hum underneath her, that's the space heater, and I can't take it. I can't. It is. I can't take it anymore. But yes,
It's my saving
at
grace.
any given moment she will hear the hum of the heater because it's always on. Not to mention
Yes.
that it's expensive because it uses a lot of power, but we argue about that also all the time. But I digress.
Yes.
Anyway, back to
Two. So two things that you can smell. So if I take a deep breath in, I could smell my coffee in the background. And then it's hard. There's a plant near me, a flower, so I could almost smell the flowers. And then one thing that you can taste, got my water. So those are just great grounding tips, and it keeps you very centered. And again, it's all about not thinking about, if you're really kind of, you close your eyes and you really kind of feel those experiences, it takes you away from the fears of the future and the anxiety, right? And then also your mind is not ruminating on the past, and those emotions make you feel very depressed and down. But it gets
Is
you back to the present.
is it a so is it fair to say, guys, or is it, am I simplifying it too much to say that um it's a healthy distraction from the chaos that's going on in your mind, that's causing you to feel. And again, bring it back
Mhm.
to the political sense with the Preddy murder and the good murder. If I were to take a moment to do that, it's taking me away from, it's distracting me from, because my mind is
Mhm.
hyper focused for me, my mind is hyper focused on seeing those ICE agents shoot this man on the ground 10 times. And
And
I can't get away from that, but this distracts me from that. And is that what is it? Am I
it is a
oversimplifying?
it is a distraction, but think of it, reframe it to something that's far more positive. And it's a way to resource yourself. It's a way to get to the present. It's a way to empower yourself. And if we just do it, we start feeling better. We start feeling stronger. Um, I had shared yesterday that someone I know that's really struggling with the Epstein files, and that's a lot of it is due to her own personal trauma. And and my heart goes out to her because she feels like she's reliving her past, and she also feels that all, like, her perpetrator and these perpetrators are getting away with it. Um, so her and I have spoken a lot about self care and what you can do to really help yourself, because it's almost like re victimizing herself over and over again. And even though she's not in that past experience, what's happening today is revisiting it. So we have had to do some breath work or do some Reiki or remind ourselves. And it's not, as I say all this, guys, and I'm sure Patricia, you attest, and Mitch, you really do too, is we practice what we preach. So we're not just saying this to pontificate about all this. We do it as a way of life, and that allows, if I could speak for myself, I do it as a way of life because it allows me to show up and to be of service and to help the people around us. Because if I don't practice what I preach, I can't give it away to you, right?
Mhm.
I can't help you. So I forgot my point, but that's in essence what it is. Um, so yeah, it helps. It helps, and it allows you to show up and to respond to your life in every way. It's not limited to just the politics, because these politics, and hopefully after this administration leaves, we want to make sure that you can show up as your best self in life on a daily basis, to be of service, to be grounded, to be supported. And, this platform that the three of us are going to be engaging in, hopefully it's going to give you the tools that you already have. And let's just enhance it.
Yeah. Is this going to just a few more questions, guys? Because I want to try to keep I'm learning to try to keep the interviews a little bit tight in terms of time, as opposed to when we do the one just me and alive and I ramble, forever. Um, do in the political world, the action, the control is with the voters for
Hmm.
now, right? God willing, it'll stay that way, right? That's the goal of the Trump administration, is to shift that to an idiocracy where, it's in the power of an idiot and the people who surround him. But still, as the election cycles since January 20th, 2025, since the Village Idiot was inaugurated, have clearly indicated that the voters still have power, and they're speaking, fortunately, the right way over and over and over again. So we have that power to take action, right, through voting. And
Yeah.
I feel like, and I wonder if you guys can validate this, or if there's just more to this. I feel like what I would consider to be a national mental health crisis that may have existed before Donald Trump has
Yeah.
now exacerbated with Donald Trump, because there's other things that we're all struggling with now, right? We're
Hmm.
all, in, I think, a crisis. The politics has brought us into a state of crisis, and that, like Ritu, you were saying, that crisis can create a sense of paralysis, because that's what they want,
Hmm.
which puts us in a
Yes.
position not to take any action.
Yes.
These techniques that you guys are sharing with us and these efforts, does that afford us the power to take back, to remind ourselves that we can take action, that our
Hmm.
vote doesn't matter if we're terrified and if our cortisol levels are through the roof and we can't breathe,
Hmm.
because and we lose our democracy there, right, if
Yeah.
we don't do it. So in some ways, I'm asking you guys if it's fair to say that you want to save democracy. Right now, you have to work on your mental health, and you have
Hmm.
to work on your wellness, because you can't show up. Is that
Yes.
is that fair, or is that too general, too broad?
No, but I think it's, why wait? Why wait till this November for the midterms? Why wait till 2028, right? Your life, your how you show up in life on a daily basis matters now. It matters today, because the more chaotic we feel, we have just given our power away to this administration, our power away to the bullies in our lives, our power away to whatever is bothering us. This is our moment to take our power back. So, yes, it's our democracy, but it's our humanity. And the more we do the self care, that allows us to respond to life and not constantly react. And that's what we need to do. We need to be responsive. We need to take care of ourselves. Otherwise, they win.
Mhm.
Yeah. Patricia, you have any thoughts on that same
Yes.
topic? Are we, you know, are do
Yeah.
we? What do you think?
It's the value of taking action as opposed to being reactive.
Yeah.
I think you said that yesterday. That's why
Yeah.
I
Can
wanted to
you?
repeat that.
Yeah. Can you? I mean,
Yeah.
it's great. Can you expand on that a little bit?
So, kind of as we do these exercises, and Ritu was talking about the sympathetic and parasympathetic, what it's doing in our bodies, but it's also in our brain. It's when we get into that fight or flight, it's going to shut down the frontal lobe. And that's where
Yes.
our thinking, our main thinking and decision making comes from. So, if that's shut down, how are we going to act? How are we going to help others be empowered or help ourselves be empowered? So, if we can get ourselves down to that base level, kind of put together a plan of action. What does that look like? It can be a lot of things. It can be, raising money for somebody, starting a GoFundMe, looking for people who need
Mhm.
help. If you live in an area that has people that are too afraid to go outside, if you can reach out to them and say, "Do you need groceries? What can I do for you?"
Mhm.
Just making those connections. So as we start implementing these exercises, we can start using these to move forward as well to help our community.
Awesome. That's awesome. My last question for the both of you, and this is probably a totally unfair question, because I didn't like tell you I was going to ask you this, because I didn't want to. I wanted to kind of to get your gut reaction. In terms of politics all the time, one of the main things that I talk about, one of the main purposes of Xenocracy is to remind everybody we're going to be okay. The best I can do is make that reminder politically, because that's the only thing I really know about, right? And I can take everything that I see Trump doing, and I can remind everybody that he's an idiot, because I think that's important, that we're not up against an evil genius. And I can look at the data, and I can tell us when I think that we're going to be okay. You know, something weird might happen, but we're moving in the right direction, and we're going to be okay. Based on your experience, you guys have decades of experience between the two of you. Are we going to be okay emotionally? Like, can you and I don't know if that's a fair question to ask, because I don't know if the data is as clear on that as the politics are for me. But I want to throw that really general question out to both of you. Are we going to be okay in 3 years emotionally as a
100%.
country?
100%, because I believe in our humanity. And Mitch, you always say this, and it grounds me often, and that is darkness cannot exist in the presence of light. So when you have someone like you, Mitch, out there spreading, really talking about what's happening with this administration, using humor, using your eloquence and speaking, that's light. When we're here with Patricia, and on a day-to-day basis, she is helping all of her clients and providing them the tools to move forward. And then that's helping. And when we have our own children, where we're modeling behavior that's resourceful and teaching them about integrity and morality, and that's helping. And I think our human race, it's not limited to what's happening in this administration, but we will rise. We will be resilient, and we're going to come out of it stronger than ever. We're going to come out of it as a nation that's not divided but together. And I think we do it every single day in the simplest ways. And this way that we're doing it is in a little bit more grander way, but in the simpler way, when you're at a ShopRite or Trader Joe's or Whole Foods or wherever you shop, and you see your cashier, rather than ignoring them, you acknowledge them, you say hello. When you're walking the street, rather than looking down, looking up and just saying hi, acknowledging someone else's presence. Because I think what's happening now is we're forgetting our humanity, but we're not going to. Any difficulty that we have been through, when we come out of it, we come out of it stronger, more whole. And yes, is that a choice? That is. And that's, I think, what we're introducing today. So thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you. Patricia, what do you think? Are we going to be okay?
Yes, I agree with Ritu. Something, is it Mr. Rogers that always would say, look for the helpers. But I always tell my son, how do you be the helper? What do we do? And like Ritu was saying, just greet somebody. If I'm on the bus, if I'm in the back of the bus getting off, I will yell across that bus, thank you, and I've
Yes.
seen bus drivers being like, oh, yeah, you're welcome, because they don't get acknowledged for that. But it's like the small things, and then building up to the bigger things. Helping somebody across the street, or buying flowers for that woman that's selling flowers. I've seen those videos too. Like, what are just,
Beautiful.
but building it up to like being on a podcast or talking about, or just looking for these influencers and you, Mitch, who are out there helping, talking to people, educating them in what's going on. They're heavy topics, but you bring humor to it, and that's very helpful.
So I'm going to save the world.
No,
I'm kidding.
but we're going to help you do it.
Yes.
We're
I'm
going to
teasing.
help you.
Yes. All right, guys, this is wonderful. Thank you so much. You guys, you know, I um, I just want to say to the audience, like, um, I know, obviously, I know what Ritu does day in and day out, because I see it. Like I see the lives that she effectuates and changes in the hospital, and although Patty Ann is a new friend, Patricia's a new friend, and I don't see her day-to-day life because of my exposure to both seeing therapists myself and just being integrated into the mental health community through Ritu. I have a sense of what she experiences with clients for years and years and years, and these two folks are superhuman. You have to be. It's. I don't know how you guys do it, and get up and tie your shoes in the morning, because there's so much you absorb. And right now in this this live, there's probably about in all platforms, probably about 50 or so of us here right now. And I know you guys as healers are, you're absorbing the energy and the pain and the fear, and you're redirecting it from just those of us that are in this space right now. And I cannot thank you enough for what you do every day and for what you've done right now, because I know that you've made a huge, huge difference in everyone's lives here, and people have a practical set of tools that they can walk away with, and that affords them the ability to come back and enter the fight. And just thank you for doing this, both of you guys, and thank you for what you do every day for all of us. And I thank God you guys are available to do it, because God knows I couldn't do it. It's good. I think of the plethora of things that the world should never depend on me for, which is basically almost everything. So I'm very thankful that you guys are here. So on that, guys, I think we'll wrap the live. We may, we're working on our schedules, and we're looking at potentially doing this once a month or so. And it'll probably be on this day, but we'll keep you guys posted. And thank you all for coming to today's live as well and supporting it. The recording will be out in about an hour or so for those who missed it. As I always say, and it's perfect for this conversation that we have right now. 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time, one live at a time. We chunk through. We take what we can and we walk away, and we put that oxygen mask on our face. The rest of us are holding the line. We're here, and you take a break and you come back in when you're ready to stand in this again. And we'll just keep going. Love you guys. Ritu, Patricia, thank you again for being here. And we'll see you guys. See you all on Monday. Be well, everybody, and take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you again. Take care.